Hello friends, hope you had a great first week of the new year. We have some interesting news for you today, but we may be a bit heavy on the international side as Australia seems to just be waking up from the New Year's Eve hangover. But nonetheless, it's all very interesting. On the human malware side, Australia is committed to a vaccine rollout. There is now a rollout plan starting with healthcare workers, frontline workers, aged care workers, and then adults and kids apparently. I have linked below the PDF of the plan from the health department if you're not aware of it yet. Welcome to the Dirt Report, the home of Aussie tech and telco news with some international tidbits. Make sure to like this video if you did. It does help with the Google overlords, and if you want to support us and see more videos like this, then tap the subscribe button. In today's episode, we have the big three telcos arguing about funding. Signal surges as a top app. Use Chrome at your own risk. Make sure to update it. We'll talk about that. And Apple cracks down on apps because China. Thanks for jumping in. Let's roll the intro. "5G development is going to be a key metric of how well the government's Job Maker initiative fares. Developing a new connection infrastructure on paper should lead to more jobs, spending, and ultimately get Australia out of what may seem like a bit of a hole. However, many businesses have had a record year, especially in certain retail areas. Now, because the real 5G requires brand new infrastructure, major communication backbone, and deployment across most major cities, it will not just be one of three telcos. Many other companies will get amongst it. A big part of what makes the 5G development interesting is the funding from the government. Last year, the government committed $74 billion in job maker funding, and the 5G deployment gets a decent cut of that money. Sort of. This means that under the current structure of this fund, anyone who has the expertise can apply, get funded, and create some sort of communication project that relates to 5G. That's all great and good. However, it also means that it doesn't have to be a project across the nation, nor even a major city. And of course, it doesn't have to involve the three big telcos. On paper, a small regional town could fund their own 5G network across the township without involving the big players. Same as a big enterprise business can create their own network of 5G towers in their infrastructure area. Of course, this does not sit well with our telco overlords. This week, Optus, Telstra, and TPG have asked the government, or at least pleaded with, and mainly led by Optus, who has sunk a lot of money into 5G already, that any time there is a 5G deployment, it should involve one of the three telcos in some way, shape, or form. Now, Optus says that not involving them is an ill-advised and that existing telcos have the expertise, infrastructure, access to the spectrum, and that with their involvement, it will produce better results and a better return on investment for the taxpayer. Here is what Optus had to say. "There is a real risk that the funding under this initiative may be exhausted on niche projects that have no pathway to scalability or granted to applicants that are not in the business of networks and are not equipped to consider 5G as a holistic technology solution." I have linked the full report that they've sent out below. Have a read of that. Part of the reason for this is the small amounts on offer. The dollar figures range from $500,000 to $2 million per submission, and that means it could be a whole bunch of small projects, and the three big telcos were hoping for the government to fund their 5G rollouts instead of them having to pay for it. In the Australian 5G Innovation Initiative Round 1 consultation summary document, the government notes that Telstra's submission emphasized that 5G is not just about spectrum bands and base stations, it's about drawing together other complementary technologies such as the Internet of Things, data hubs, artificial intelligence, machine learning, digital twins, and more in ways that were simply not possible in earlier generations of mobile networks. Now, stakeholders agreed using complementary technologies would maximize development opportunities for 5G users and represent projects that provide the best value for money in showcasing 5G technology. Also in that document, they also noted Optus's argument too. Some individual businesses' submissions noted that eligibility criteria should support businesses that have already built next-generation tools. Submissions suggest that showing preference to companies that have already developed products will help deliver projects within the time frame of the initiative. However, telecommunication industry submissions considered the eligibility criteria identified in the discussion paper were generally appropriate, noting they considered that joint proposals were likely to generate better results in relation to the program outcomes. The views of the network equipment manufacturer differ to those of the telecommunications carriers. Nokia stated it sees real economic value in the possibilities for enterprise to invest in private wireless networks using 3GPP technologies on their premises. Additional investment in private networks by private enterprises will significantly speed up 5G uptake overall. And similarly, in consultation, Ericsson has noted there are opportunities for projects using private networks provided applicants can demonstrate that their project will meet an eligibility requirement. Now, ARCIA and the University of Technology Sydney highlighted the benefits of private 5G network providers in the move to new network technologies and the ability to use private 5G networks to adjust and trial network settings specified to 5G development. Now, I have linked the document below for your reading pleasure, but it's an interesting argument. On one side, we have telcos being all up in arms how the funding amounts are small. They have to compete with other companies to get pieces of that pie. They're arguing, and rightfully so, that their expertise and standardization of the 5G rollout would be better outcome for the taxpayer to just give them the money, right? However, what they obviously don't want to see is the creation of competition from smaller technology providers that could mean less controlled landscape of technology, less controlled by the three big telcos, and enterprise businesses having their own self-controlled networks. Means less enterprise business for them. Because if they can do it themselves, why would they pay somebody else to do it? Well, there is reasons, but we won't go into that. So let me know your thoughts below. Which way should the funding swing to meet the objectives of the program, create relevant technology, deliver it, and be value for money, the ROI? Let's move on. Just use Signal. The tweet from the richest man in the world has rocketed the app Signal into one of the most popular messaging apps on the stores. But how did we get here? Well, as you may be aware, earlier this year, so literally last week or so, WhatsApp has finally cracked, and a pop-up in the app has let users know in the terms and conditions that no one reads, that they just clicked away, but then the media picked it up, that WhatsApp will be sharing your information with Facebook from now on. The new privacy policy going into effect next month that no longer includes language indicating it will allow users to opt out of data sharing with parent company Facebook. Instead, the new policy expressly outlines how WhatsApp will share data, stuff like your phone number, profile name, and address book info with Facebook. WhatsApp has fallen off the shelf of privacy, fallen to the sweltering pile of Facebook excrement. It was already on the edge of that shelf, so for those who thought it would never happen, you obviously don't know who Facebook is. But you also have to remember that this isn't something new. This is just the final nail in the coffin that is WhatsApp. Unless you opted out of sharing with Facebook a few years ago, you got locked into it. It was a one-time option introduced back in 2016, and WhatsApp's privacy policy has kept language referencing to it since, and that's what's changed now. Now, in a statement out of WhatsApp, they said that the security and privacy is still there. But who will believe them since they are owned by the big bad Facebook? Hey, remember to like TechmanPat on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at TechmanPat. Now, with WhatsApp off the podium, who will pick up the mantle? Well, Signal has been around a long time, promoting unparalleled security, privacy, and encryption. Nonetheless, Elon Musk tweeted out, "Just use Signal," and the masses followed. Expect some big corporation to buy Signal soon, but for now, Signal is a perfect alternative to WhatsApp. Let me know what your messaging app will be in the next coming year, or do you even care, or will you just continue using WhatsApp? Maybe just Facebook, use that. I mean, it's the same thing now, isn't it? Let's move on. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency in the US has released a notification to update your Chrome browser on Windows, Mac, and Linux as soon as possible. The new version 87.0.4280.141 addresses vulnerabilities that an attacker could exploit to take control of an infected system. The new stable release of Chrome brings 16 security fixes, and while the tech giant won't disclose for all of them until the majority of its user base has received the update, it did highlight patches for 13 vulnerabilities that were reported by external researchers. 12 flaws were classified as high risk, while one was determined to be a medium in severity. Most of the high severity flaws are use after free bugs, i.e. memory corruption flaws residing in various Chromium components, and they could be exploited if a user visited or was redirected to a specifically crafted web page in order to achieve remote code execution in the context of the browser. Now, Google paid more than $110,000 to the security researchers for discovering and reporting the vulnerabilities. So make sure to update your Chrome browser because a lot of people still use Chrome. Actually, not still, but do. Anyway, finally, our last story of the day. Apple has cracked down on 39,000 apps on its Chinese store this week. Why, you may ask? Well, you came to the right place, right? Apple gave game publishers a deadline in China to gain licenses to make sales. of the games they were selling on the App Store, and the deadline was Thursday. Those who did not get one got removed. This includes Assassin's Creed Identity and NBA 2K20. The license is a government-issued number that enables users to make in-app purchases within the Apple China App Store. And as you may be guessing, Apple is falling in line with Chinese content regulators, aka the commies, to make sure they can continue doing business over in China. Now, China controls what games are allowed to be licensed and sold in their country, and there is a very small number that make it through the net. And that's it. Let me know your thoughts below. Should Apple be bowing down to China to do business in China? Comment below. And on that Marxist bombshell, we have to end this episode. Thank you very much for jumping in. Make sure you like this video if you did, and supporting us, you can actually press the subscribe button, and that also lets you see new videos that we release every so often, actually a couple times a week. It really helps a lot, so thank you very much for that. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you all in another one. Bye!